So here we are at Hamilton Elementary School. I had started this school when I was in grade 4, so I was probably about 11 years old. We just moved here from uptown in New Westminster. Moved into this rural community in the Queensboro, Hamilton area. So, having come here from a school where I had been bullied, both me and my brother, there's just a high level of anxiety that we had. So you can imagine being in grade 4, having come from a school where you had been bullied and harassed. You're kind of insecure anyways because you're a kid. Layer onto that the anxiety of starting a new school. So I had no idea what this school was going to be like. Had no friends. We had picked up and left a neighborhood where I had lived most of my life at that point, and then started here. So it was probably within that first week of school, having adjusted, there's a group of Indian boys that kind of hung out together. There were a bunch of different grades. Raminder's just reminded us from kindergarten to grade 7, there was maybe no more than 100 kids in this school. Everyone knew everyone, but it was a different time back then, and it's still a mixed school. And I had went up to Raminder, who was in grade 7, right? So I'm in grade 4, and he's the big boss in school. And I went up to him and asked him what the school was like, and would anyone bother me? And just told him, yeah, people used to bother me in my other school for being an Indian boy. And I'll never forget it. He looked at me and said, "No one's going to bother you in this school if you stick with me." And those words stayed with me my entire life. So here I was, coming in with a high level of anxiety, and then knowing that within the first week of school, that someone had pulled me aside, sensed something was going on, one of the oldest guys in school, and said, "No one's going to bother you." I hadn't seen Raminder in years. We were only kids at that time. It's funny, the kids that you grow up with, when you're kids, for some reason you just recognize them right away. We had ran into each other at the gym up in New Westminster at Canada Game School, and immediately recognized each other, started talking. I had gone to school with his brother. He looks exactly the same, just bigger and older, and from grade 7, and still had this, this police-like aura about him, of a protector. So I asked him what he was up to. And he was working bylaw enforcement in New Westminster at that time. That's right. Yeah, and also security at BC Place. Yeah. And Rogers Arena and GM Place. So, go figure. He goes from being the cop at school to going into bylaw enforcement and security. So we had a good chuckle about that, and I hadn't shared with him the impression that he had left upon me as a kid. So I'd run into him every once in a while here and there. I was taking my son to a game at BC Place, and I was talking to my son about bullying. It's about the same time that he was starting school, and I was telling him about things that you should and should not accept and what bullying was. And there was Raminder. And so I went up to him, I said, and we got reacquainted again. It's Raminder, I got to tell you something. And I haven't told you this, I don't think I've told anyone this. And I told him in front of my son, who was probably 5 at that time, and said, "You have no idea the impact that you left on me as a kid when I started at this school." I'd come from a school where I had been bullied and harassed and beaten up quite a bit. And when you pulled me aside, and for me and my brother, it was, he was this savior, he was this protector. And to know that I can come into a school and knew that we were going to be okay, and that somebody would be there looking out for me, the impression left upon me in school what has lasted an entire lifetime. So I shared that story with him, and I wish I had a camera to capture the look on his face, because I don't think he realized what he had done for us. And it wasn't just me, it wasn't just my brother Sonny, it was for a number of other kids in school, that he made sure that nobody was ever bothered.
So what do you think of that, Raminder? I mean, did you realize you had that kind of impact? I mean, what was the school like back then?
When I talked to Gary, I was shocked. I didn't realize, and I guess I do now because I got kids too, as how bullying plays a major factor, not only then, but years to come. I mean, I'm so happy that I can make a difference in Gary's life, his brother's life, or anybody else's life, and I didn't even know it. All these years later, I didn't even know it until I met him that day. And I was shocked, and like I said, I'm still so happy and that I can make a difference in someone's life.